if you are willing to accept that you will lose the pure light, your victory is guaranteed. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Dbt04 here. Today we are back with Nirvana, everyone's favorite protagonist who is suddenly dressed in black. So today we are going to be doing the Nirvana Set 4 deck profile, which basically means we are going out of our way to play Mahar Vairina, Mahar Nirvana, as well as Vairina Esmeralda. Now, whether this build of Nirvana is actually optimal or not, or whether it's actually the best or not, because there are many ways to build Nirvana, right? You can build it around Urga, you can build it around Expecta, you can build it around Esmeralda, you can build it around Valiante if you want to be a badass, but no matter how you do it, there's always going to be something that changes. So this list is strictly dedicated to making sure we have both in the deck. If you are not interested in seeing them in the deck, you may want to check out another Nirvana deck somewhere, because this is not going to be it. I mean, have you seen how expensive these things are? Have you? And if you're wondering, how do you afford this? I didn't. That's why today we have Dbt04.
Hello.
So he will be covering the Nirvana deck profile, because clearly if I could afford this, then you guys don't know me anymore. Let's start with the right deck. Alright, deck, very simple. Egg. Go.
Reno. Rayu.
Go.
And Mexican.
So let's start with the great one.
So the great one is for Reno. It's very simple. She has no skill on turn 1, but it's when rolled upon by Rayu, which is the grade 2. You search your deck for one Chrono Dren, or in Trickstar in this case, and then you can spell call it to field. And then don't worry, the Trickstar has resist, so it won't get sniped off on turn 2. So yeah, so it's a +1 Trickstar. You just search it out very early on, and then it's set up for Overdress. So, you can do your turn 2 arcs, you can set up for your turn 3 Valiante, or any of your grade 3 Vairinas basically. Then as for Rayu, her skill is that when rolled upon by Mexican, Soul Blast 1, and you search your deck for the original Vairina. Okay, so please take note, you only search out the original red Chrono Jet. So make sure that you don't I'll search out Valiante, or I search out Arcs. No. Only search out original Chrono Jet. And then you add it to your hand, so you don't have to immediately overdress it. You can even use it for discard cost or anything. But it's just it's a +1. Then it's also that version of Vairina is just a very good beater. And also it's one of your only control options in this deck. So do keep that in mind.
It's a very expensive control option, but I would say if you really need to, I guess the situation calls it, you could.
Get rid of those pesky trick moons.
More rather than not, you're just using it for 20k.
Yeah.
Because it is pretty good as a turn 2 thing. Turn 3 still plays okay well with your grade 3 Nirvana, and then your turn 4 obviously you could still have it run. But once you have turn 4 Nirvana, you probably want to start killing off your own Vairinas to bring them back in the ultimate form, Vairina Esmeralda, also known as Brick Incarnate.
Yes.
And of course we have
grade 3 Mexican. So he states when he attacks. I'll go over his worst skill first. So when he attacks Counter Blast 1, you give all your units with the Overdress ability plus himself 10,000 power to that in the front row. So let's say you have a few of so to give you an example, that let's say you have arcs, let's say Trickstar and arcs, and then you have just an Esper, and just let's say you have just a Valiante. So this Valiante is not overdressed, but he has the overdress tax on him, and he will still get the power up even though he's not in the overdress state from the Nirvana skill. Whereas Arcs is in the overdress state, so he'll also get, and he has the tax overdress, so he will also gain the power as well. So this mainly is, this is the way that Nirvana plays. It's just you just pump power, and then you swing for magic number, and then that's about it. Then that's really just all the deck does, in principle, as well as in the most basic form. And his second skill is the one that matters the most. Is a discard one card from once per turn. You discard one card from your hand, and you search your drop zone for one grade 0 and call it to area guard circle. So of course the number one target you want is Chrono Dren, but you can also choose to get Scrambled Eggs back if you so blasted him out for searching out your Vairina, or you can if you want more bodies on board, like you're playing Bug Gao, you can get your Quick Trigger, get your Heal Trigger, and of course so on and so forth. Yeah. So if you want to get more bodies on the board to boost, you can do that. But mainly you want this for Trickstar.
Generally speaking, because of the fact that your front row is mainly where all your Vairinas reside, your back row is going to be kind of lacking in more rather than not. So if you do want to use your Nirvana skill to just drag back any grade 0, I would say it's really up to you. Personally speaking, I do think that, of course, your number one target is going to be Trickstar. But then again, if you think about it, you may be wondering, oh, but this is a grade 4 base deck, right? So you're not going to actually stay on this Nirvana. And that's right. So let's actually move forward to the grade 4. The grade 4s, we obviously play 4 copies of Mahar, Nirvana, and 3 copies of Esmeralda. If you are unable to afford this image, I'm sorry, neither could I. So let's actually break this down.
So first we have Magican, who has slimmed down to look more like Dungry. So we're seeing more Dungry.
No, he looks like Titan.
No, it's Dungry.
No,
it's Dungry.
Oh.
It's Dungry. So as also Magican Dungry, he has 2 abilities. As you know, his 2 abilities. His first ability is a continuous skill. All of your, so long as you have 1 unit in Overdress, so it has to be in the Overdress state for it to work. So no longer can you just have that a random Valiante without being Overdress on field to gain the power. Now you actually have to have a unit in the Overdress state. But once you just need 1. You don't even need multiple. You just need 1. Your entire front row gains 10,000 power during your turn. So that's really good. Hits the magic number, and then it doesn't cause a counter blast anymore. And yeah, it's generally very, very welcome to have the power up. But then the main reason why I play him is because it's the second skill, which is counter blast 1, and you choose 1 card with Nirvana in its name, so either the grade 3 Nirvana or the grade 4 Nirvana from your soul or your hand, and you put it into the drop zone, and
it's a special soul blast.
You choose your opponent's Vanguard and you deal it 1 damage. And then you search your drop zone for 1 grade 0 and you call it to rear guard circle. So it's basically just the same as normal Nirvana, except you just do 1 damage.
The cost is obviously a bit higher, but that's because you're building in for bigger effect, which is the deal 1 damage. And
yes.
Mahar is really one of the main styles of this deck. I know a lot of people hate this thing, and very honestly, I do to a degree, but Mahar is really the shine out style of this deck, because Nirvana is basically a deck that has high power, high attacks. If you want to play stuff like Spectre, Urger, so on and so forth, Valiante, you're going to keep bashing the opponent front to front. And now you can just straight up deal them a damage. You think damage, what do you think? You think stuff like Vortex Dragoneer, you think stuff like Samuel. And we also remember that they didn't do well much in terms of numbers per se. They had numbers because of stuff like, for example, Old Mouse Strike skill, or for Vortex's case, there's stuff like Vortex himself. So generally speaking, they had some way to gain numbers, but never to the same degree as a Nirvana deck can. I'm of course comparing it retrospectively to each era. Don't actually take a Samuel deck and fight it, it won't work. So what I mean is that the thing is that, especially in a format where we have less shields, where everything is just so bloody small, right? Every magic number you pull out counts. And now you not only have infinite free magic number, you straight up have a damage ping. So if you're wondering, oh my goodness, why is this thing 2,500 yen? Well, this is the reason why, because it's actually not bad. Yes, you have to accept that you're going to have auto losing to Pure Light a lot, but as long as you can get over that mental barrier, you see your therapist once a week, I think very honestly you should have no problem. Any other deck whose name is not Pure Light, you have a great matchup in my opinion. You have difficulty in some, if it's like a control deck or whatnot, but I would say that it's not like instant loss. You have a fighting chance. You have the tools now to do it. People used to say, you only need Urger as a Vairina deck and then that's it. But Mahar's value is just straight up good enough to say, okay, we can consider an alternative build, because up till I think God knows how long, if you didn't play the Urger package in Nirvana, you just straight up weren't playing Nirvana. But now we actually have an alternative. Just like how if you didn't play Leonard, you weren't playing Bruce. It has changed now. We have alternative forms that will cost you 2,500 yen.
Oh yeah, then just take note. Unlike Vortex Dragon, your opponent still gets the damage check. So
yeah.
If they check an OT as a damage,
you throw the game.
It's I'm sorry, but don't worry. The card's still good. Don't worry. Don't let that dishearten you. The card's still definitely still very good. Okay, yeah, all right. But then now we get on to the main reason why I built this deck. It is...
You built this for that?
Bro, look at the art, man.
Oh. Okay, next up we have 3 copies of Esmeralda, also known as Brick Incarnate. This guy actually has quite a lot of interesting skills. The question is, can you call him?
No. On grade 3, you cannot overdress him. You know, he's literally a brick in hand for 3 turns. Minimum, you know, if you don't draw into Mexican Dungaree, you're never gonna use him.
Never.
But you know, so you might say, oh, does that mean that he has a really strong skill to circumvent the fact that he's a brick in hand for 4 turns?
Kinda.
It's debatable, but to me at least, I think he is worth it. But it's very debatable. So, first skill is that he only overdresses on top of Trickstar.
So you can't use this on top of a Valiante, Expecta, Arcs, or even straight up the original. Nothing works. He only takes his little lolly form. Like it will not work on anything else.
So which means, you know, that if you already have a very strong Vairina on the board, like a Valiante or
you
an
have
Expecta,
to call it to another column.
You have to call it another column, or you have to sacrifice one of your Trickstars and leave it in the drop to just be used for just Esmeralda.
But then you may be wondering, hey, that sounds pretty bad, you know, getting rid of all my good stuff. Well, not really. Esmeralda has a really fun effect that helps you charge the drop.
Yes.
So basically, when you overdress on top of Trickstar, this is his next skill, by the way, you choose all the cards that are related to Vairina by blood, and then you just add it as an overdress. So what this means is you straight up just take your extra copies of Trickstar in your drop zone. You can take any other Vairinas.
No, it's not a can, it's a must.
You must take any other Vairinas, it's in your drop zone, and then you just straight up just charge it. It all just enters. Think of it as like, you know, gauge heaven. Yeah, this is it. And that honestly makes it quite worth it, in my opinion, to wait till turn 4. Because everyone knows for the longest time, the only way you really, you know, beat out Vairina if you're not prison is you just swing rear, right? You just swing rear and you just hope that they never have enough to recover. And now that's no longer an option against Esmeralda, in my opinion. Honestly, Esmeralda's only counter now is you straight up rush him, because if you're not rushing Esmeralda, the thing is he's just going to charge the entire drop zone of every component, every material in the drop zone, and just add it up, and there's nothing you can do. But what does he do with all those exist material?
Yes. So his second skill is when your Vanguard attacks. So let's say you have a Nirvana on field, you just attack him. You Soul Blast 1, and he stands. So let's say you attack him first, then you attack with Nirvana, then he will stand for 1 Soul Blast, and he will gain 5,000 power for every single original dress that he has.
So this is why the charge drop is really important, because everything you have is now going to add power. So on average, an average Esmeralda looks about, I would say, 3 to 4 cards big, or maybe even bigger if you play this right.
I think the highest I've gotten is 10. 10? Yeah.
Wow, so you literally had an entire quarter of the deck here.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's good enough. And if you stand, it gets like 50k.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, that's actually
But do note that, you know, his first swing is pretty flashy.
Yeah, it's vanilla. No, you have the 10k.
You have the 10k, but
so it's just 23. So it's like, okay, it's not that bad.
It's pretty flaccid, but then once you restand, it's like all of a sudden,
the power.
Yeah,
so
but then
that's really all Esmeralda is, and that's kind of an issue, because if you want to talk about restands, we already had that. So, is Esmeralda worth your Mahar decks? I'm gonna say it's up to you. If you can afford the 2,500 yen that's also attached to this triple rare, I would say it's not a horrible option to think of. So
I mean, the thing is that if you're playing the Mahar Nirvana option, you're already throwing Elgar out the window. So
yeah, you might
as well play the Grade 4 that was designed to be played with Mahar Nirvana.
But that's also if you can afford bricks.
And unlike Valiante, its restand is not reliant on hit, and it also doesn't require a counterblast. So you know, your counterblast can just be saved for Mexican, or you can save it for Jimena, original Vairina, like I don't know, any Arcs, or any other counterblast that you need for the deck. So it's liberating in that way that you're not tied down to counterblast so much anymore. But then now we have the opposite issue, which now we run out of soul, and you know, as of making this video, you know, soul is of course the number one issue. Fighting prison, you know, you just straight up lose your soul.
I mean, fighting prison, you straight up just lose. You don't even have to mention it.
Yeah, but then I mean, even when not fighting prison, no, soul is of course an issue in this deck, because you know, you lose 1 soul for Nirvana to use the skill, and then you lose 1 soul for the right deck, and then you're just left with 2 soul because this deck doesn't have that much soul charge unless you want to count like playing cards like Toki Garashi, but that's also up to you. Yeah, so as you can see, because he's not sleeved, so we don't actually play him with this spoiler alert, but because we feel that he takes up slots that are better used for actually playing the engine itself. So the goal now is not to
Discard him.
is not to discard him in the hopes that you can kill him next turn, is to kill him now.
And the other thing is also that Mahar straight up requires a Nirvana name, whereas the old one was just a discard one. So you don't even get the option to recycle your Togas anymore until, only for the right deck. So if you straight up don't get it from turns, 0 to 2, you're kind of never using this again.
Yeah.
Which we have more than enough bricks in this deck. So, yeah.
Alright.
Moving on to our grade 3s. We play 1 copy of Nirvana for the right deck, and we play 3 Valiante. Big shocker, because everyone expects to play Expecta. No one thinks, oh my goodness, I should straight up just not play Valiante. And a lot of people just don't like this card. And for a good reason. Valiante really appears to have been power crap, There's just so many better things Vairina does nowadays. We just don't need a restanding Overlord as a rear guard. We don't. But that's the number one reason why we play Valiante. It is because he is a restanding Overlord. So, the thing is that Vairina Valiante has 2 skills. He can be Overdressed on top of a Trickstar, or any
unit in any unit in the Overdress state.
So you know that little thing you left on your turn 2? Well, bam! This is what your turn 3 looks like. So you can straight up just galvanize anything you've been leaving behind for your past 2 turns trying to play an early game, and Valiante just takes it up. And then you'll be saying, come on, that's so lame. We already had, Expecta. But Expecta should have just minuses you all the way to hell because you are killing all your material just to get the 15k one crit. And then you may say, but come on, we are not playing this thing, right? Doesn't this thing charge the drop as you just said? So why care about how much you minus? Because we only play 3 copies of this thing. We can't afford any more bricks, which means you are not actually guaranteed to get your refund from your Expecta. On the other hand, Valiante never puts you in such a big deficit. All he does is, he gains 5,000 power for each
dress material.
Each dress material. So it's kind of like the same like this thing.
As a continuous, so unlike Esperadia, he actually can become a very tanky boy because it's a continuous skill.
So even on your opponent's turn, so don't think about Draconic Overlording this shit because it's not gonna work.
Yes.
And then of course his last skill, the one that you most know from the anime because we have Resolve, you count plus 1, discard 1. If this unit in the Overdress state attack hits, you stand this unit. So yeah, I mean, yes, I know why people really don't like this anymore, but to me, I just feel the turn 3 pressure of this thing is still so good. And even on turn 4, he is still good because you also have stuff like your Mahar Vairina dealing Mahar Nirvana dealing damage and increasing power, which just works brilliantly with a Draconic Overlord. So I really don't understand why there's so much public hate towards Valiante, especially in modern time. I get it that he's weaker than Urga, but I feel at times that the arguments against him is just kind of irrelevant. Like, simple and straightforwardness should not be a reason why you don't play a card, in my opinion. In fact, it should be a plus rather than a minus. So, I still feel that Valiante is still worth it in this deck. If you want to play Expecta, I say go ahead. I think it's not wrong. But be prepared to pay the cost. Yes. Literally.
It's a very, very heavy cost.
So, I would still prefer Valiante because even if you don't get to see your Esperadia, he still does something on his own. Which to me is more than enough.
And one thing to take note is that Esperadia takes away every single Nirvana, every single copy of Nirvana and Trickstar from your drop, so they're gone forever. So, you also don't even want to play so many copies of him in one turn. So because you Overdress 1, then there goes all your all your ammo in one shot. So you do another one, what are you gonna take from the drop? There's nothing left. So so let's say you want to have 2, you say, I want to play 2 Esperadia because I want to have 2 restands. So then why not just play Valiante? Then you can have 2 restands and both of them are hitting for solid numbers. And one of them costs 1 soul, one of them costs 1 counterblast.
And a discard.
Yeah, and a discard. I mean, but the discard's par for the cost for Vairina at this point.
Yeah. Right. You can discard this for Toga.
Yeah, but
yeah, you could do that. Yes. Moving on to our grade 2s, we play 1 Ryu for the right deck. We play 4 copies of Vairina Arcs, 2 copies of base Vairina.
So
this is for the right deck.
Right deck, we already covered him. basically we covered him. He gains he overdress him on top of Trickstar, and then when he attacks, if he's overdress, you gain 10k, and then you
you can choose to Soul Blast 2, and if you do choose one of your opponents, grade 2 or less, rear guards retire. No, sorry, just choose any one of your opponents.
Choose any of your opponents, rear guards and retire.
You never use the Soul Blast 2, but the 10k is really good for 20k plus beta, or even 30 once you get your Nirvana out, which is just good.
I mean, if you want to get rid of like a Trick Moon.
I mean, if you're playing Trick Moon, he can revive it. So
yeah, but I mean, but the Trick Moon. I mean, there are some scenarios where getting rid of the Trick Moon might actually
or just get rid of
anything, like Leonard,
But then this is Soul Blast 2, so if you're using this, be prepared to never use any other Soul option.
Yeah, you are basically signing off your use of Soul for the rest of the game. But sometimes it is worth it to just snipe one. It's the only version of control that this deck has, and I think it is worth it in sometimes. But mainly, your counter blast will be used for the best double rare that Vairina has had in a very long time. For ever since the start. No, we don't talk about that. Okay, so ever since set 1, Vairina Arcs has basically just been the number one resource management for this deck. Counter blast 1, when overdress, you draw 2.
Overdress on top of Trickstar.
Yeah, overdress on Trickstar because you overdress on Trickstar, counter blast 1, you draw 2, he gains 5 at the end of the turn. So I don't have to tell you
this does is
why this card is so good.
It just nets back anything you lose from overdress.
No,
I mean if you overdress, right, you kind of go -2 in inverted commas and you just draw 2. You cycle 2 more pieces and then you can just pour on the absolute aggression back to real life. So it's like you never lost playing this card.
And I mean if you're using the free Trickstar you got from the right deck, you actually just plus 1.
Yeah.
You just plus 1 just like that. And then the thing is that it is so free and it's so, and the fact that we don't have to rely on grade 3 Nirvana anymore for the blast power. Your counter blasts can all be used for arcs. And you can cycle through your whole deck, finally get through all your bricks and
your counter blast can also be used for Variante, but
yeah, but
this is definitely one of the main uses for your counter blast.
The thing is that you might thanks to him you might actually finally be able to see your Variante. Because you can cycle through all your bricks. Finally get to actually your actual shield in the deck. It's really, really very important to use arcs in this deck.
Yes, but did you just say shield? We play shield in this deck? Yes, we do. For grade 1s, we play 4 PG.
We only shield in this
we
deck.
play 4 Jimena and 2 Ritsuchi.
Yeah.
So we obviously play PG because we're interested in living and we have a lot of bricks already.
Yeah.
We play 1 for the right deck.
Talk about that.
Then our 4 Jimena, you probably know from last set, is on place, card blast 1, look at the top 7 cards, and overdress to your hand, and then you shuffle the deck. So it's just a really cool searcher for what you're looking for. You want your Variantes, you want your Esmeraldas, so there you go. It's not bad in my opinion because you don't discard. The only issue is you have to pay a card blast, which is not cheap, and you may whiff.
Yes.
You may whiff.
And also this card is also very expensive.
This card's also very expensive.
Yeah,
so,
I think it went from $5 to $12 within like 3 weeks.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So if you have your playset from set 3, take very good care of them. If you don't have your playset, be prepared to spend a lot of money. But it is probably going to be one of the main cards that Vairina's going to keep for a very, 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 very long time.
Unless they power creep the searcher.
I mean, unless, yeah, but you know.
Next up, we have Ritsuji, a rare from the set 4, which is one of the only other cards added to this deck besides Mahar, Vairina, and Esmeralda. I've put this here for a reason.
Yes.
When placed, Counter Blast 1, choose an overdress from your drop zone, add it to your hand. If your Vanguard's grade 4, you counter charge 1. So if you're grade 3, you're paying 1 Counter Blast to recur 1 card. But if you are grade 4, all you do is just flip, unflip 1 Counter Blast, which is effectively free by the way, and then you should just get a Vairina back, which is good considering that a lot of times your Vairinas are going to be loitering drop because either they died, you discarded them, so on and so forth. So now
or the inside Esmeralda.
Or the inside Esmeralda,
Yeah,
so you get to recur them back, which is pretty good in my opinion, and it is free. But the only reason why I play 2 is because he only becomes free on turn 4, which means he is almost as bad as this guy.
Yes.
And this guy. So really you have to know that while he's a great utility option for anyone trying to play this deck, be prepared that he is kind of a brick for a very long time. If you're not playing, if you're not playing the grade 4, so you're playing this in the grade 3 or lower Nirvana deck, I say he's not bad, but you have to use him in a deck that doesn't need much CB, like an Urga based deck.
Yes.
So yeah.
And also because the timing is also very important for him. So you want to make sure that you use him before you use Esper Idea, because otherwise then you have no Vairinas left in drop. So please take care and don't use him at the wrong time.
Upgrade zeros, we play D8 as we mentioned. We play 4 Trickstar, I don't have to mention why. 1 OT. 4 draw, because we need our pieces, but we don't have enough money to buy the draw rare. But feel free to do it if you can.
4 heals.
4 heals
and 7
crits. We don't play the R crits because we can't afford it. Feel free.
And I mean the R crits do help with the soul issue, but yeah, we just can't afford it.
We just can't afford it. We spend all the money here, guys.
Yes, I mean we rather have Magical Donkey.
And you do need this.
Oh yes, 100%. Okay, no.
You do need this.
I do have to clarify. The Esper Idea restand is once per turn, so don't check the Drakvela and then swing with your Vanguard again and think that I can restand twice. Oh my god, it's Ethics Blau.
No, it's not because this is once per turn.
Yes.
So it does not work. We are clarifying this before you actually invest your 2,500 yen. You are thoroughly welcome.
Okay, and also do take. I do want to mention. I have seen quite a lot of builds that have dropped Trickstar to 3 or even 2, and then you play 1 in the right deck. That is definitely an option because that leaves you quite a lot of extra space, and you really only do need 2 Trickstars because you have one for each front row slot, but.
You're really killing your own consistency.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't see that other Trickstar like somewhere, like you're done. You're done basically.
You're done. So speaking of done, we are also done with this deck profile. So like I said, this is a list that's really meant to focus around the Great Force. If you don't want the Great Force, you should not have come here because we are not here to actually talk about anything less than the Great Force. Are they good?
No, debatable.
Debatable. Will you lose the Pure Light? Yes, but are you going to be able to have a decent match against everything else? Yes as well. This deck actually does quite well, especially in the first week of WGP, for those of you who've been keeping track. There's actually quite a lot of Nirvana lists topping around, which is why I actually decided to film this, because I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. So, in all honesty, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. As long as you just never queue into a Pure Light, you actually can do pretty well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Bye bye.